For millions of years, the galaxy believed one thing without question. Gravity could not be changed. It was not a weapon, not a tool, not something any species could touch. Gravity was a rule older than stars. Every civilization learned this lesson early. Ships were built around it. Cities were shaped by it. Wars were lost because of it. Gravity decided who lived and who died in space. So when the warning alert appeared inside the Galactic Science Council chamber, no one took it seriously. At first, the alert showed strange data coming from a quiet human system near a dying star. The numbers were wrong. Completely wrong. Gravity readings were shifting, rotating, folding. Council scientists blamed broken sensors. Humans were new to the galaxy. Their technology was rough, unstable. Of course, their machines were giving false data. Then the signal repeated. And repeated again. A senior observer leaned closer to the screen. The gravity field around a massive human construction platform was not pulling down. It was pulling sideways. Silence filled the chamber. That was impossible. Gravity had one direction, always toward mass. Always downward. But the human platform was hanging at an angle, its lower edge pointing toward empty space. A council member spoke softly. This must be a trick, but it was not. Live visual feed activated. The council saw it clearly now. A massive human structure floated near the star. Ships moved around it freely. Cargo containers drifted, then suddenly stopped, then gently turned as if pushed by invisible hands. No engines fired. No explosions, only gravity. Moving. A human engineer stood on an open platform wearing a simple suit, no armor, no fear. He reached out and turned a large metal ring attached to the platform. The feed zoomed in on the engineer's console. The labels were simple, childishly simple. Gravity direction, gravity strength, anchor point. A council scientist's voice trembled. They turned gravity into a setting. Fear spread quickly. If gravity could be adjusted, then shields meant nothing. Planet defenses meant nothing. Even stars could be used as weapons. The council demanded immediate contact. A human representative appeared on screen. He looked tired, but polite. He waited while the council shouted questions at him. How are you doing this? Who authorized this? Do you understand the danger? The human listened patiently. Then he answered with one sentence. We didn't defy gravity. We engineered it. The chamber fell silent. Engineered, that word echoed in every alien mind. Engineering meant understanding, control, repeatable results. This was not luck. This was mastery. The council demanded proof. More data, human logs, testing limits. The humans agreed. They always agreed. That was the most frightening part. The next demonstration took place near a small moon. Observers from dozens of species watched as a human ship approached the surface. Normally, landing required careful balance. Engines fighting gravity, thrusters burning fuel. The human ship did none of that. It simply turned gravity off beneath itself. The ship drifted downward like a falling leaf, slow and gentle, then stopped 1 meter above the ground. Then gravity turned sideways. The ship slid across the surface without touching it. The observers could not breathe. Then gravity turned inward. Rocks lifted from the ground, floating into perfect orbits around the ship. A council commander whispered, "They are playing with it." No, they were working with it. Human scientists explained calmly. They spoke of gravity layers, anchors, hinges in space-time, fields that could bend without breaking. Alien physicists listened in horror. None of this should exist, but it did. One question remained. Why? A council member finally asked. Why did humans do this? The human representative paused. Then he answered honestly. Because gravity kept killing us. Humans had grown on a dangerous world, heavy gravity, constant pressure, broken bones. collapsing structures, space travel that crushed bodies. They did not worship gravity. They fought it. And the galaxy was not ready for what that meant. At first, the galaxy laughed. They always did when a young species claimed to change something fundamental. Humanity had only recently joined the greater galactic community. Their ships were practical, not beautiful. Their language was blunt. Their science was aggressive, older civilizations whispered among themselves. Humans exaggerate. They misunderstand gravity. It is a clever illusion. The Galactic Science Council released a public statement. It congratulated humans on their creative experiments and reminded the galaxy that gravity was still a universal constant. Humanity did not argue. They invited observers. A large test was scheduled near an empty system with no life and no strategic value. Thousands of ships arrived to watch. Scientists, military officers, curious traders. The humans brought engineers. The test area contained a simple structure, a long metal bridge floating in space. No engines, no thrusters. Just steel and cables. A human engineer activated the system. Gravity appeared. Not down, sideways. The bridge bent slightly, not under weight but under direction. A heavy transport vehicle rolled across the bridge as if it were driving on a road, even though open space lay beneath it. The observers were silent. Still, some laughed nervously. "Interesting trick," an alien admiral said. "But not useful in war." The humans did not respond. Next test, 2 identical ships floated in space. One human, one alien built, the same mass. The same engines. A countdown began. The alien ship fired its engines and accelerated forward. The human ship did not. Instead, gravity behind the human ship increased. The ship moved forward without thrust. Faster, cleaner, no stress on the hull, no strain on the crew. Then gravity flipped. The ship stopped instantly. The alien ship could not. It overshot the marker, engines screaming as it tried to slow down. The crowd stopped laughing. Human pilots smiled quietly. In the following weeks, more demonstrations followed. Humans showed gravity braking, gravity turning, gravity shielding. Weapons fired at human test ships curved away or flattened into harmless energy waves. Kinetic rounds slowed, stopped, and fell gently aside. Human engineers explained everything. They used simple words. We guide gravity, we hinge it, we lock it. Alien scientists felt sick. Because the explanations made sense, gravity was not broken. It was redirected. Some civilizations tried to copy it. They failed. Their ships collapsed. Their crews died, their systems overloaded. Gravity tore their experiments apart. The humans warned them. "You must build the frame first." "What frame?" the aliens asked. "The human one." No one understood what that meant. Fear grew. Then mockery turned into anger. Several powerful empires accused humanity of hiding weapons. They claimed the demonstrations were a threat to galactic balance. Humanity responded by opening more facilities to inspection. They had nothing to hide. That made it worse. One empire finally decided to test human limits. A military fleet approached a human gravity research station. Officially, it was a training exercise. Unofficially, it was intimidation. The fleet fired warning shots. The shots curved away. The fleet advanced. Space itself pushed back. Gravity wells formed around the ships, gentle at first, then stronger. Engines struggled. Formations broke. The human station sent one message. "Please leave." The fleet commander laughed and ordered a full attack. The response was quiet. Gravity inverted inside the enemy ships. Crew members floated. Control panels tore free. Loose equipment became deadly. The fleet did not explode. It simply stopped functioning. Human rescue ships moved in and saved every surviving crew member. No prisoners, no demands, just a warning. After that, no one laughed. The galaxy began to understand the scale of what had changed. Human ships could travel without fuel limits. They could land anywhere. They could ignore planetary defenses. They could survive environments that crushed other species. They could build cities inside gas giants. They could walk near stars. Gravity obeyed them. This knowledge spread fear faster than war ever could. But humans did not attack. They built. They offered gravity stabilizers to planets with quakes. They stopped moons from drifting. They saved stations falling into stars. Worlds that accepted human help prospered. Worlds that refused began to fall behind. Trade followed humans. Security followed humans. Influence followed humans. Not because they demanded it, because gravity did. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions. Some members demanded sanctions, others demanded secrecy, a few suggested war. One ancient counselor spoke quietly. "We are no longer deciding if humans are dangerous," the chamber listened. "We are deciding if we can survive a universe where they exist," no one answered. Because everyone already knew, humanity had not challenged power. They had removed its foundation, and the galaxy had just stopped laughing. Fear does not stay quiet for long. After the demonstrations, the galaxy changed. Trade slowed, borders tightened. Military fleets gathered in silent systems, waiting for orders that never came. No one wanted to be the first to attack humanity. But no one wanted to be left behind either. The Breaker Alliance moved first. It was a coalition of old empires that believed power should never change hands. They controlled massive fleets, ancient weapons, and half the known trade routes. To them, humans were not innovators. They were a threat to the natural order. The Alliance leaders agreed on one plan: destroy the human gravity network before it spread. Their target was a human orbital facility known as Frame 01. It was the first large structure built entirely around gravity engineering, no heavy armor. No visible weapons. The Alliance believed it was vulnerable. A massive fleet jumped into the system without warning. Frame 01 detected them immediately. Human engineers inside the station remained calm. They had prepared for this. Alliance ships opened fire. Energy beams and kinetic rounds filled space, moving at deadly speed. None of them hit. Gravity bent, space twisted. The attacks curved away like water flowing around a rock. Inside Frame 01, engineers adjusted controls, simple motions, smooth rotations. Outside, the battlefield became unreal. Gravity wells appeared beneath enemy ships, pulling them sideways. Formations broke. Heavy cruisers slammed into lighter escorts. Ships spun out of control. Alliance commanders shouted orders, but nothing worked. Engines fought gravity and lost. Then the humans responded. They did not fire weapons. They changed the rules? Gravity inside several Alliance ships suddenly doubled. Crew members collapsed. Metal screamed. Hulls cracked. Other ships lost gravity completely. Crew floated helplessly as equipment became deadly projectiles. Human ships moved freely through the chaos. They used gravity lanes, invisible paths of controlled force that pulled them forward without thrust. Alliance weapon systems failed. Targeting computers could not predict movement that ignored inertia. One commander screamed, "This is impossible." He was correct. The humans sent one message to the Alliance fleet: withdraw. This does not need to continue, the Alliance refused. That was their final mistake. Human engineers activated hinge arrays around the battlefield. Massive gravity structures unfolded like invisible doors in space. Entire sections of space rotated. Alliance ships found themselves upside down, sideways, inside out. Fleets that had trained for centuries were reduced to drifting wrecks. No explosions. No heroic last stands, just confusion and failure. When the battle ended, most Alliance ships were still intact. They just could not move. Human rescue vessels arrived immediately. Injured crews were treated, escape pods were guided safely away, no executions. No prisoners of war. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity had defeated one of the largest military forces in known space, without killing them. The shock was worse than destruction. News spread fast. Other empires realized the truth. Weapons no longer mattered. Armor no longer mattered. If humans controlled gravity, they controlled movement, impact, and survival itself. Panic followed. Some civilizations rushed to attack human facilities before it was too late. Others tried to steal technology. A few begged for alliances. Humanity responded the same way every time. Calmly, they increased security. They protected their engineers. They continued building. More frame stations appeared. More gravity networks formed. Human space expanded not through conquest but through stability. Ships preferred to travel near human gravity lanes. Stations near human systems became safer. Trade followed safety. The Galactic Council held an emergency vote. They declared human gravity technology a controlled weapon. Humans ignored it. They were not members of the Council's old power blocks. The Council had no enforcement left. One counselor said quietly, "We are not at war with humans." Another replied, "Then what are we?" No one answered. Because everyone felt it, the universe itself had tilted. On frame 01, a young human engineer watched the stars. "We didn't mean for this," she said softly. Her supervisor nodded. "We never do, but they attacked us." "Yes, so what happens now?" The supervisor looked at the glowing gravity field around the station. "Now," he said, "we decide what kind of power this becomes." Far away, alliance leaders signed surrender agreements. They agreed to disarm near human space. They agreed to gravity monitoring, not because humans forced them. Because gravity already had. The war ended faster than anyone expected. But peace did not feel safe. Because every civilization now understood one terrifying fact: if humans ever chose conquest, there would be nowhere to stand, and nothing to fall back on. Gravity itself would decide. The war ended, but the fear did not. Across the galaxy, leaders stared at star maps that no longer made sense. Borders still existed on paper, but gravity lanes ignored them. Trade routes shifted. Old choke points became useless. Because humans had changed something deeper than politics. They had changed movement itself. Human engineers did not celebrate the victory. There were no parades, no speeches about dominance. Instead, construction ships moved quietly from system to system. They built. Frame stations appeared near unstable stars. Gravity anchors were installed around cracking planets. Old space stations that had been abandoned for centuries were made safe again. Human gravity systems were not flashy weapons. They were infrastructure. A mining world that had lost half its surface to quakes suddenly stabilized. The ground stopped shaking. Buildings stopped collapsing. The people cried when they felt solid ground for the first time in generations. A trade hub near a red giant was saved from destruction when humans redirected stellar gravity just enough to calm the star's storms. Word spread fast. Humans could fix what the galaxy had learned to fear. Soon, requests arrived. At first they were careful, quiet, sent through unofficial channels. Then they became open. Worlds asked for gravity shields. Stations asked for stabilizers. Even proud empires asked for help, though they used different words. The humans answered selectively. They did not give everything. They built frameworks. "We won't control your world," human representatives said again and again. "We will give you balance." Alien leaders were confused. Balance was not power, but it worked. Human-built gravity infrastructure reduced accidents, lowered transport costs, and saved millions of lives. Travel became safer. Colonies that had been impossible before were suddenly reachable. Human space became the center of commerce. Not by force, by gravity, the Galactic Council tried to respond. They created new laws, new committees, new restrictions on gravity engineering. None of it mattered. The Council had power only when others feared punishment. Now everyone feared instability more, and humans were the only ones who could stop it. A senior counselor spoke the truth during a closed meeting. "We are not being conquered," she said. "We are being replaced," some members argued. Others stayed silent, because they knew it was true. Human engineers trained alien specialists. Slowly, carefully, they shared theory, not full systems. Enough to help, not enough to copy. Some alien cultures resented this, others respected it. "You are gatekeeping gravity," one ambassador accused. A human engineer replied calmly, "No, we are protecting reality. That answer ended the argument. As years passed, something strange happened. Humanity became trusted, not loved by all, not admired by everyone, but trusted. When a system faced disaster, humans were called first. When gravity storms appeared, people waited for human ships instead of running. Even former enemies relied on them. This made humans uncomfortable. "We didn't plan this," one leader said during a human council meeting. Another answered, "We plan to survive." Outside human space, smaller civilizations began to change their culture. They stopped building massive weapons. They invested in stability, infrastructure, long-term survival. Gravity was no longer an enemy, it was a service. Still, tension remained. Not everyone accepted the new order. In hidden systems, remnants of old empires gathered. They believed humanity had gone too far, that gravity should never belong to one species. They prepared something desperate, a sabotage. A rogue faction attacked a mid-level gravity station, trying to overload its core. Their plan was simple. If gravity failed, the galaxy would blame humans. The attack damaged the station. Gravity spiked wildly. Nearby ships were thrown off course. Structures cracked. Panic spread. Human engineers rushed to stabilize the system. Alien observers watched closely. This was the test. If humans failed, trust would shatter. Inside the station, alarms screamed. Gravity pulled in 3 directions at once. Engineers floated, slammed, struggled, but they did not panic. They worked. They adjusted hinges, shifted anchors, reduced load carefully. Minutes passed, then calm. Gravity settled. The station held. No explosion, no collapse. Human engineers emerged exhausted, injured but alive. The galaxy exhaled. The saboteurs were caught quickly. Other civilizations condemned them openly. That surprised everyone. The galaxy was choosing not humanity, stability. After that day, the question changed. It was no longer, should humans control gravity? It became, how do we live in a universe where they do? Human children grew up learning that gravity was adjustable, that the universe could be shaped, but only with care. Alien children learned the same. A new generation emerged, one that did not fear falling stars. But deep in human space, older engineers watched the horizon. They knew something was coming. Because whenever the universe adapts, it pushes back. And gravity, no matter how well engineered, never forgets its power. The universe does not like being controlled. For a long time, gravity had ruled alone, silent, unquestioned, eternal. Now humans had touched it, shaped it, guided it. And the universe noticed. The warning did not come as an enemy fleet or a declaration of war. It came as numbers on a human sensor screen, numbers that made even the calmest engineers stop breathing. A gravity surge, not artificial, not local. It was spreading across multiple systems at once. Stars shifted slightly out of expected paths. Black holes pulsed. Gravity waves rippled through space like slow, deep breaths. Human observatories sounded alarms. "This isn't sabotage," one scientist said quietly. "This is natural," another shook his head. "No, it's reacting." The galaxy soon felt it too. On distant worlds, tides grew stronger. Space stations drifted off alignment. Gravity lanes began to flicker. Panic returned. The Galactic Council called an emergency assembly. Even former enemies attended without protest. One question filled the chamber. Did humans break the universe? Human representatives stood in silence. They did not deny responsibility. A senior human engineer finally spoke. "We didn't break it," she said. "But we stressed it." Gravity had limits. The universe could bend, but only so far before it pushed back. The surge had a source. Deep space. An ancient region no one had explored. A place where gravity folded over itself naturally, forming a massive unstable knot. Human gravity infrastructure across the galaxy was interacting with it, not causing it, amplifying it. If left unchecked, the surge would grow. Entire systems could collapse. Stars could tear planets apart. Trade hubs, cities, billions of lives lost. The galaxy turned to humanity. "You must fix this," alien leaders demanded. Human engineers exchanged grim looks. "This is not something we can control easily," one admitted. "This is gravity at its most raw." Silence followed. Then a human commander spoke. Then we go there. A mission was formed immediately. A joint fleet, human ships at the center, alien vessels surrounding them. Not for protection, for witnessing, they traveled to the source. As they approached, space itself looked wrong, light bent unnaturally. Ships felt heavy, then weightless, then heavy again. Some alien crews panicked. Human crews held steady. They had lived with dangerous gravity their entire history. At the center of the region, they found it. A massive gravity convergence like a cosmic storm frozen in motion. Invisible but felt everywhere, no enemy, no intelligence. Just the universe pulling on itself too hard. Human engineers studied it. We can't shut it down, one said. But we can relieve the pressure. The plan was dangerous. They would build the largest gravity hinge ever attempted, not to control gravity, but to guide it gently, slowly, back into balance. If they failed, the surge could worsen instantly. Some alien leaders demanded evacuation instead. A human engineer answered simply. If we run, it follows, the fleet agreed. Construction began. Human ships anchored themselves in impossible positions. Gravity frames unfolded across thousands of kilometers. Alien ships assisted, holding position, trusting systems they barely understood. Time passed slowly. Gravity pushed harder. Ships groaned, hulls strained. Some vessels were lost, not destroyed, but pulled apart by uneven forces. Humans did not stop. They adjusted, reinforced, recalculated. One mistake could end everything. Inside the command station, a young engineer whispered. "We shouldn't be able to do this," her supervisor replied. "We shouldn't exist either." But here we are. At last, the hinge activated. Gravity did not snap. It flowed. Slowly, carefully, the pressure shifted. The surge weakened. Systems far away reported stabilizing readings. Cheers did not erupt. No one dared yet. The hinge held for hours, then days. Finally, the surge faded into background noise. The universe relaxed. The fleet returned home quietly. The galaxy waited for blame, for punishment, for consequences. None came. Instead, something unexpected happened. The universe adjusted. Gravity stabilized at a new equilibrium, slightly different, slightly calmer in regions touched by human infrastructure. The danger was gone. Human engineers were exhausted. Some were injured, a few were lost, but the galaxy survived. In the council chamber, an ancient alien stood and spoke. "We accused humans of arrogance," she said. "But arrogance would have been control without care." She bowed her head slightly. What they showed instead was responsibility. The council dissolved itself weeks later. Not from pressure, from irrelevance. Because the galaxy had learned a new truth. Power without care destroys. But power with restraint protects. Humanity had not become rulers. They had become guardians of balance. And now the final question remained. Not whether humans could engineer gravity, but whether they would ever stop. The galaxy did not celebrate loudly. There were no massive parades, no statues built overnight, no songs written in every language. Instead, there was silence. A deep, thoughtful silence, because the universe was still there. Stars burned calmly. Planets followed stable paths. Space lanes held steady. Gravity no longer screamed under stress. Life continued. And that, the galaxy slowly realized, was the greatest victory of all. Human engineers returned home quietly. Many did not call themselves heroes. Some did not speak at all for weeks. They had touched something too big, too old, too close to existence itself. They had felt the universe push back, and they had listened. On Earth, no celebrations were ordered. The Human Council released a simple message. We did not win. We learned. Across alien worlds, reactions were mixed. Some species were afraid, others were relieved. Many were confused. For centuries, advanced civilizations had believed one truth. The universe could be understood but never shaped. Laws were absolute, reality was fixed. Humans had proven something different. Reality could be engineered, but only if done with humility. Slowly, requests began to arrive. A dying star system asked for help stabilizing its sun. A drifting colony begged for gravity correction. A space station collapsing under tidal stress sent a final plea. Humans did not answer all requests. They chose carefully. Each intervention was small, precise, gentle, never permanent control, always balance. Alien engineers were invited to learn not secrets, but principles. Humans did not hide their work. They explained, they taught, they warned. Gravity is not a tool, one human engineer said during a joint summit. It's a responsibility, the phrase spread across the galaxy. New academies formed, mixed species studied together. Physics textbooks were rewritten not to erase old laws but to expand them. A new term entered common use, applied reality engineering. Not owned by humans, but born from them. Still, fear remained. What if humans chose domination? What if one day they decided to turn gravity into a weapon? The answer came not from speeches but from action. A powerful empire, once hostile to humanity, collapsed into civil war. Their worlds suffered unstable gravity due to ancient infrastructure failures. They asked humans for help. Humans agreed, no demands. No control, they stabilized the systems, then left. No bases built, no flags planted, the galaxy watched closely. When nothing followed, fear began to fade. Humans did not want empires. They wanted problems solved. Years passed. Then decades. Children grew up in a galaxy where gravity lanes were normal. Where star systems once thought doomed now thrived. Where ships moved with efficiency never imagined before. Most beings forgot the fear, but historians remembered. They recorded the moment when the universe pushed back and humans stepped forward, not with force but with care. One day, a young alien student asked a human teacher a simple question. "Why didn't your species use gravity to rule everyone?" The human smiled gently. "Because we already tried ruling each other once," she said. It didn't end well. The student thought about that. Far beyond known space, sensors detected something new, not a threat, not a surge. A natural shift in universal constants, subtle, peaceful, the universe was still changing, as it always had. Humans observed, they did not rush to intervene, they waited, because the final lesson had been learned. Engineering reality did not mean controlling it forever, it meant knowing when to let go. On a quiet orbital station, the original gravity hinge prototype was deactivated permanently. It had served its purpose. A plaque was placed beside it. No names, no dates. Just words. We listened. The galaxy never forgot what happened. But it remembered something more important. When faced with infinite power, humanity chose restraint. When given control over gravity, they chose balance. When the universe pushed back, they did not fight it, they worked with it. And that was why the galaxy was not ruled by humans. It was protected by them, not as gods, not as kings, but as engineers. Engineers of reality itself.